We're back, time for the Politics Fix with David Gregory, the moderator of the NBC's Meet the Press, and Ron Brownstein, the political director for Atlantic Media. I love having you guys at the end of the week for the big picture. Who would have believed when I got up this morning that, guess what, apparently, was it Rahm Emanuel called the president? Who called him and said, you won those?
Gibbs, actually. It was Robert Gibbs. They heard from the Situation Room. They got a wire report from the Situation. Oh, by the way, he's won this
Did
thing.
we even know he was on the list?
I mean, it certainly hadn't been talked about as far as I know, and there was a complete shock within the White House. The other thing that was shocking is the nominations were actually sent in February. Yeah. So basically, they liked the
But when was the jury meeting? When did they actually vote, to be fair? Didn't they vote fairly recently?
Yeah, I think they voted.
Okay, here's the question. I'm going to ask you. Neither one of you guys can actually give me a real hunch opinion. You're such journalists. But let me try this by analytically. Is he better off for winning this? Or better off not to have won it? Is this an albatross or is this a win?
Oh, yeah, I think he's better off having won it. I don't think you deny something like this. I think if he's smart, he can use it to create some leverage with the allies to say, you love me, now show me the love, and give, help step up and make good on your responsibility around the world.
So this makes him a peace leader. Perforced just having won this award.
It gives him a little more wind at his back.
Yeah, it's a tangible reflection of what we see in polling and in other sorts of public reaction around the world, that he is seen as someone who is re-engaging America with the world. His approval ratings around the world are remarkable. They're higher than they are at home, which is, as you note, is not unusual.
Almost 90%.
And there are several countries around the world in polling, both by the Pew and also by the Project on International Policy Attitudes, that found that a higher percentage of people in those countries trust him to make the right decision in international affairs than their own national leaders. But again, as David said, the question is, and this was debated partially in 2008, if you're popular around the world, what does that translate into in terms of defending and advancing American interests? He was, he kind of talked about that in his remarks today. I mean, he went out of his way to say, look, I am going to deal with the world as it is, and that also involves the use of military force. There are Republicans who want to argue, as they did both in 2004 and 2008, that a Democrat will try to curry favor with the world by taking actions that are not in American interest.
That's
something he's pushing back against.
Is this the only country in the world where being popular worldwide is a deficit? I was thinking that other countries like Israeli leaders, British leaders, they all come here to shine internationally so they can come home and shine all the brighter. In this country, if you go to Oslo, you come back a lesser man. It is a strange chauvinistic tendency. If our country right or wrong, if they're right, we're wrong, that attitude.
Well, I think about a lot of this is a reflection of where the country's been for the past 8 years, which is an implicit, it's an undercurrent. It's not so under, actually.
Is this a whack at Bush? Let me just go through some things.
Yeah.
Well, 8 years of Bush, making fun of Europe, going it alone, having troubles with the French, obviously, the Germans, all those countries. Is this their way of saying we don't like the torture, we don't like the Iraq war, we don't like Bush's sort of anti-intellectualism?
Well, yeah, I think there's all of that in there. But let's also remember that there was multilateralism about Afghanistan under Bush, about North Korea, and about Iran. What this was really about was Iraq.
Yes.
And that they didn't like Bush, period. And there was a difference in terms of how the Bush administration sort of viewed the role of the United States in the rest of the world, which was the unique projection of American power as being the real global leader. Here, Obama believes in a transformational change as being more of an interconnected world.
Okay, make a prediction. By Sunday, when you go and meet the press, and you have your roundtable, will this be seen generally as spinning right or spinning down on him?
I think there's a key point here, which is the difficulty is he hasn't yet garnered all of the achievement yet to match this kind of honor.
At best.
And whether it's domestic or foreign. And by the way, Nobel Peace Prize on a day when he's getting closer to making a decision about whether he can win in Afghanistan. He is a wartime president, and managing these wars is still the biggest.
Peace laureate call for 40,000 more troops.
Which he noted today.
Because Pat Buchanan, sitting in this chair a little while ago, said they are trying to direct his foreign policy by shining him up.
Yes,
he can.
He can be a hawk.
And he better be able to do that, or unless the Nobel Committee control American foreign policy.
And he went out of his way to do that today. But it's interesting. I mean,
he went out of his way to say he still had the leverage to do it.
He still he has to deal with the world as it is. Look, foreign policy divides the American public in much the same way that social issues do, which is that you have a blue-collar, non-college constituency that is very responsive to the Republican peace through strength, go it alone if necessary argument. But also, go it alone if necessary. You had the arguments from Cheney in 2004 at the convention saying explicitly that the fact that Bush was unpopular in the rest of the world was proof that he was standing up for America. On the other hand, there is an upper-middle class, predominantly college-educated, white-collar audience that believes believes that the best way to defend America's interests in the world is primarily through diplomacy and alliance. Those voters are increasingly important in the Democratic coalition, and I believe that to those voters, this is an asset. I mean, it is a tangible reflection of Obama's standing in the world. You know, in 2008, when you would talk to people who were supporting Obama around the country, surprisingly, one of the principal reasons they often gave, especially the more affluent ones, was the belief that he would change the way the world looks at America. For those voters, this is tangible proof that that is happening, even if it is really incredibly premature. There you go.